The new iPhone 14 Pro is finally here, and in this video I'm going to talk about 5 ways that you can unlock the potential of your iPhone for video. Let's get started. Number 1, if you happen to own an Apple Watch, you can actually use it as a selfie screen. One of the biggest downsides of the iPhone is the fact that the best camera is on the back. So that means if you want to see yourself as you're filming, you can't do that. It's just a blind shoot.
Sorry, sir. Doing my best. Who made that man a gunner?
But if you're a sucker like I am and you spent several $100s on a watch as well as a $1,000 phone, then you're in luck. You could strap your watch onto the phone itself and use it as a separate display. All you have to do is go in your watch to camera remote and enable that there. You can start, stop it. You can't really change too many settings. You still have to go here to change your lenses and to change the mode. And if you're a YouTuber or vlogger who needs to see yourself while you're filming, I find this feature very useful, although it is quite ridiculous. And right now we're using the new iPhone 14 stabilization mode. It's called Action Mode. And it's using accelerometer data to create a really solid digital stabilization. We've actually seen this type of technology in GoPros in the past, and I've been really impressed with this feature. The only downside is it does default to the wide angle lens because basically the phone is having to crop in on your image in order to stabilize everything outside of that window. So we're using the main camera, which is the best camera, and this image is very cropped in, so Connor's having to stand quite far away. We're also limited to only 2.8K as the maximum resolution. All those things being said, does this make iPhone gimbals completely obsolete? Probably not, but it's very cool to have, and I'm sure this will get better in future versions. And the third thing you should start using on the new iPhone 14 Pro is this mode, the cinematic mode.
What do you think of it, Malachi? This is beautiful. I love it. So beautiful.
Blur in the background is what qualifies as cinematic. That and 24 glorious frames per second, that's what we can do now. The original cinematic mode didn't even have 24 frames per second. If you aren't aware, 24 frames per second is the industry standard for cinema. Now we have 4K at 24 frames per second. The thing that I love about this feature is you can actually change the aperture in post. Because the focus is done with software using LiDAR technology, you can actually go into the Photos app or even in Apple Final Cut and change your focus points and aperture. I think this is one of the easiest ways to make your iPhone footage stand out, and I hope more people start using it because I think it has gotten pretty good. ProRes. It's a feature that you may have heard of. It arrived on the iPhone last year with the 13 Pro. We now have it again with the 14 Pro. And a lot of you may be thinking, oh, if I want high quality video footage, then I should enable ProRes. Not necessarily. It is definitely the highest quality footage that you can get on the iPhone. It's giving you 10-bit 422 recording. But the reason you would maybe want to stay away from this is because honestly, the footage looks very similar to the normal mode. And the normal standard HEVC 4K or 1080 is like a 1/10 of the file size. In fact, every time I try to shoot ProRes, it tells me that it has to free up resources. And so it verifies that some of my photos are backed up on iCloud, and then it deletes a bunch of stuff just to make room for it because I don't have enough storage.
Toss it into the fire.
And on top of that, the iPhone still has the super slow USB 2 type speed with the lightning cable. So it's not really the best way to get footage off of your phone. You can either airdrop it or use USB, and it takes forever. So hopefully we'll be seeing an upgrade with the next iPhone with USB-C that would hopefully have Thunderbolt type speeds.
You live in a fantasy land.
Until then, the only people that should be shooting ProRes are people who are using iPhones for real, actual set productions, and those are very small use cases. If you're shooting for yourself, home documentation, or TikTok, you don't need ProRes. Now we're outside all of a sudden to tell you about exposure lock, which I think is one of the most important tools that you should use with your iPhone. The iPhone does its best to try to expose properly, and it's doing some interesting HDR technology to get the sky and the floor all exposed properly. Floor as in outside yardage. What do you call that? Ground? Something like that. But I found that often the iPhone can get those exposure changes incorrectly. So I'm gonna tell you about a feature that a lot of people don't know about. Exposure lock. Take your finger, push it down on the screen, hold it down, and then you can go up and down and adjust your exposure compensation is what it's called for the overall image. This is a really simple trick and it's super useful for both photo and video. So the new iPhone 14 Pro is finally getting closer to that Pro camera in your pocket. Is it good enough to shoot an entire movie? If you have the budget, obviously an iPhone is probably not the right tool for proper filmmaking projects, but I do think this is a very valuable tool for social media creators out there. In fact, I'm noticing more and more high-end YouTubers using primarily iPhone footage in their YouTube videos. It's totally acceptable now, and it's obviously a great tool for home documentation, and the footage is looking better than ever. So you can actually get DSLR-like footage with a phone in your pocket. What do you guys think of these tips? Let us know down below, and make sure to subscribe. Dave Mays Reviews out.